Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Pan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The sensex and the Nifty give up early gains to end flat. Midcaps and banks outperform. 8 Nifty stocks hitting a record high in trade today. At least 4 people are killed in Ukraine as Russia launches a new wave of drone and missile strikes for the second day. Prime Minister Modi speaks to Russia's President Putin, reiterates India's commitment to support a peaceful resolution. He also spoke with US President Biden last night about his visit to Ukraine last week. The Middle East remains tense as Israeli forces continue to pound the Gaza Strip, killing 20 people in the last 24 hours. The UN says it has been forced to pause aid operations in the region after mass evacuation orders. Zee Entertainment says it has entered into an agreement with Sony India to settle all disputes related to the failed merger, withdraw all claims and counterclaims, including the demand for a $90 million termination fee. Investors in Byju's moved the Supreme Court against the management of the embattled edtech company. This after US lenders consortium investors are likely to raise alleged financial irregularities. The apex court defers the hearing. With just a month to go for the new surrender value rules to take effect, LIC asks insurance regulator for a review. Sources say LIC wants the new formula, which raises the surrender value above 75%, to be tweaked. That's an exclusive. South Korean multinational LG Electronics is likely to follow Hyundai and go public with its India business. LG's global CEO tells Bloomberg an India listing is among several strategies being explored as the company hopes to achieve $75 billion in revenue by 2030. Not late to the quick commerce party, says BigBasket's Menon as they fully tilt towards their quick delivery service targets, expanding their dark stores from 400 to 700 and deepening their product pipeline for 30-minute deliveries from 10,000 to 30,000 stock-keeping units. That's a CNBC TV18 exclusive. The Supreme Court stays a government notification which removed restrictions on misleading ads about Ayurveda and Unani drugs, asked the Ayush Ministry to explain the omission, saying the notification flies in the face of the court's orders. After spending more than 5 months in jail, the Supreme Court grants bail to BRS leader Kavitha in the Delhi Excise Policy Case. The apex court observes the investigation is complete and the likelihood of a trial in the near future is impossible. The Me Too storm roils the Malayalam film industry. Actor Mohanlal resigns as the president of the Malayalam Movie Artists Association. All members of the executive committee resigned. This comes days after a redacted version of the Justice Hema Committee report detailed accounts of harassment, exploitation and mistreatment of women professionals during movie production. Apple elevates Indian origin engineer Kevan Parekh as its next chief financial officer. Parekh has been working at Apple for the last 11 years and is set to take over from January next year. Well, let's start with the day's market action. The sensex and the Nifty ending marginally in the green after giving up early gains. The Nifty was a whisker away from record highs in intraday trade. But then we saw a sell-off in the last hour, which wiped out most of the gains. Midcaps, though, did outperform the blue chips. So the sensex closing just about in positive territory, as did the Nifty. The midcap index higher by about 0.5%, and the Nifty Bank closing 130 points higher today. Crude oil prices have eased marginally after gaining for the last 3 sessions. Tensions in the Middle East, Ukraine, and hopes of the US Fed rate cut have taken Brent crude above $80 a barrel. Some brokerages expect oil prices to remain elevated. And safe haven buying in gold and silver continue too. Global gold prices are now near record highs, and cryptocurrencies are largely trading in a tight range for the last few sessions. The Bitcoin remains above $62,000. So that's a check of the global action. Geopolitical tensions keeping investors on the edge. Russia has intensified its air assault on Ukraine as bombers took to the skies for the second day. At least 4 people were killed overnight after Russia bombarded the region with missiles and drones. Reports say that Russian missiles wiped out a hotel in central Ukraine. Air defense systems were activated multiple times in Kyiv to counter missiles and drones targeting the capital. Authorities also issued new air raid alerts across the country. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi dialed Russian President Putin. In a post on X, the Prime Minister said the two leaders exchanged perspective on the conflict and insights from his Ukraine visit. The Prime Minister reiterated India's commitment to support a peaceful resolution. The Prime Minister also spoke to US President Biden last night about his visit to Ukraine, reiterated India's unwavering support for the country and expressed full support for an early return to peace and stability. From Ukraine to the Middle East, the region remains tense as ceasefire negotiations in Cairo appear to have stalled. Israeli forces continue to pound the Gaza Strip, killing 20 people in the last 24 hours. A major hospital in Gaza is running out of fuel, and doctors claim Israel is not allowing fuel supplies. The UN says it's been forced to pause aid operations in the region after mass evacuation orders by the Israeli army.
What I can say is that the humanitarian operations have been incredibly squeezed. We're getting very little aid supply in through Kerem Shalom. We estimate that 1 million people who we plan to assist with food aid in August will go without. But look, for UNRWA, we deliver our services directly through our workforce of 5,000 staff who are working on any given day.
Now, Zee Entertainment has said it has entered into an agreement with Sony India to settle all disputes related to the failed merger. In a statement to the exchanges, the company said it has withdrawn all claims and counterclaims, including the demand for a $90 million termination fee, the stock ending almost 12% higher today. Shares of MediAssist Healthcare up 8% after its wholly owned insurance third-party administrator arm acquired a 100% stake in Paramount Insurance TPA. The 311 crore rupee deal is one of India's largest third-party administrator deals. MediAssist market share, as per premiums managed, will increase by 6% in the group insurance segment following this deal. Shares of Tata Technology dropping in early trade after 1.3 crore shares representing about 3.3% equity changed hands on the bourses today. The transaction value was worth 1,367 crore rupees. Buyers and sellers in the transaction not known officially yet. The stock recovered after the block deal, ending the day nearly 5% in the green. Deepak Shenoy-led Bengaluru-based portfolio manager Capital Mind has received an in-principle nod from the market regulator to launch a mutual fund. The company's portfolio management service oversees assets worth more than 2,200 crore rupees and manages around 1,150 clients. On to a CNBC TV18 exclusive. Life Insurance Corporation of India has asked the insurance regulator to review the new surrender value rules before they come into effect a month from now. Sources have told us that LIC wants a new formula which raises surrender value to above 75% to be tweaked. Yash joins us now with more details. Yash, this has been something that's been hanging fire for a while now. It went back to the regulator after consultations with industry, and now it seems like industry wants more. What's LIC proposing?
Well, Shireen, every time with one change and the second change, people have thought in the industry that this is the final regulations when it comes to surrender value. The regulator in the month of June said that the final regulations have been published and they will be effective 1st of October. And now with just 1 month remaining, the largest life insurance company, LIC, has written to the insurance regulator, IRDAI, not seeking an extension of the timeline, but seeking a review of the regulations around higher surrender value itself. Now, there are two important things which LIC has, sought a review on as far as the surrender value regulations is concerned. The first one is with respect to the spread which the IRDAI has, prescribed when it comes to calculation of the surrender value. Just to explain this further, essentially for calculation of surrender value, the interest rate element of 10-year GSEC yield becomes very important. The regulator has said that a 50 basis spread over the 10-year GSEC yield, that is about 7%, will be provided for the calculation of surrender value. This makes it about 7.5%. What LIC is seeking is an upward revision to that 50 basis point spread. Now, naturally, if that spread goes higher, the total interest goes higher from 7.5%, which eventually reduces the surrender value which is to be paid by life insurance companies to their policyholders. The second ask from Life Insurance Corporation of India is to not hardwire the 10-year GSEC yield in the calculation of surrender value. What LIC seems to be asking for is that don't hardwire this 10-year GSEC yield into the calculation, but rather have a plan-based benchmarking of the yield curve. What that means is that if a plan which is investing into a 30-year government security, then the yield or the interest should be calculated which the 30-year GSEC trades at, and same way with 10 years government security, the interest rate should be what the 10-year security paper trades at. Important to note that more than 70% of the investments from life insurance companies into government securities are in the 30-year papers, which means if the interest rate goes higher for the calculation of surrender value, eventually the surrender value paid by these life insurance companies to their policyholders will come down. These are the two important asks from Life Insurance Corporation of India to the insurance regulator IRDA. With just 1 month remaining, it will become very interesting if the regulator indeed considers these two requests coming from the largest life insurance company.
Well, it is the big boy asking, so let's see whether the regulator provides any room for change. Yash, many thanks for joining us. On to another exclusive. Big Basket is not late to the quick commerce party. That's the word in from the company's founder, Hari Menon, as the online supermarket goes full tilt on its quick delivery service. Speaking to CNBC TV18, Menon said that Big Basket is targeting expanding to 700 dark stores from the current 400. The company also aims to deepen its product pipeline for 30-minute deliveries from 10,000 to 30,000 stock keeping units. Take a look.
If you see BigBasket today, we actually have two offerings that we have on the app. You have something called Super Saver, which is our slotted delivery option, and then you have BB Now, which is our quick service, quick commerce option. So what we're essentially doing is basically bringing both these together into one interface, and that one interface will essentially carry the entire range of 30,000 products, which was available on both these platforms and both these offerings on one interface. We were seeing over a period of time that customers are getting more and more comfortable with quicker deliveries. And hence, that was one of the reasons that we started moving a lot towards delivering fast. If you recollect, even our slotted delivery, which was typically in the past used to be same day, next day delivery, we had moved it to a 2-hour solution, and that customers really were happy about and lapped it up. So essentially, we were seeing a very strong movement of customer preference to quick deliveries.
So that is Big Basket joining the quick commerce party too. And you can catch the entire conversation with Big Basket's founder, Hari Menon, on Startup Street at 6:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV18. South Korean multinational LG Electronics is likely to follow Hyundai's footsteps and file for an IPO of its India business. LG's global CEO has told Bloomberg that tapping the Indian stock market may help the company hit its target of $75 billion in electronics revenue by 2030. Shilpa joins us now with more. Shilpa, take us through LG's India performance over the last few years.
Well, this is going to be the second big IPO that probably will come from a Korean company that is looking to list its Indian unit. Now, if you look at why this is significant, in fact, LG India currently is one of the largest consumer electronic makers in the country. And if you look at the revenues, it clocked 18,000 crore in just the first half of 2024, as against 20,000 crore in the whole of the fiscal of 2023 that it clocked. And it has profits of nearly 1,300 crores already. And, premium appliances is what is driving growth for it currently in India, with 29% of its sales coming from refrigerators, 21% is coming from washing machines, 20% from ACs, and 19% from TVs. And it is a market leader in most of these segments. It's a market leader in televisions, in washing machines, and in microwaves. And it's also gunning for a 25% market share in ACs by the end of this year. And it is also the second largest player when it comes to refrigerators as well. Now, what is also significant is that 90% of what LG sells in India, it makes locally in India as well. So, this makes LG a very formidable player when it comes to the stock markets, and that could give heat to competitors like Voltas and Blue Star in the listed space. Back to you.
All right, Shilpa, many thanks for joining us. Shares of Granules India fell after a surprise inspection at its facility in Hyderabad. Sources have told us that the US FDA began the inspection yesterday. The facility is used in the company's formulations business and contributes to more than 70% of the overall revenue in the June quarter. CNBC TV18 has reached out to the management of Granules India and is awaiting a response. The Supreme Court has put on hold a government notification which removed a rule on misleading ads about Ayurveda, Siddha and Unani drugs. The Apex Court is asked the Ayush Ministry to explain the omission, saying the notification flies in the face of the court's orders. Now, Rule 170 of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act had prohibited ads of such drugs without the approval of the licensing authorities. Earlier, the Supreme Court criticized the government for not invoking it against Patanjali Ayurved for its misleading ads. More court matters. Investors in Byju have moved the Supreme Court against the management of the embattled edtech company. After a US lenders consortium, Byju's investors are likely to allege financial irregularities. Ashmit is standing by now with more details. Ashmit, take us through what has transpired today and what should we expect next?
Well, Byju Ravindran clearly will have many more questions to answer. As earlier, he was just facing the US lenders. Now, there are applications having been filed by investors as well. Now, here's the quick context to it all. The NCLAT had allowed for a settlement between BCCI and Byju's. The US lenders, the American lenders, had objected to that, moved the apex court. The Supreme Court had stayed that settlement and importantly allowed the insolvency proceedings to continue and thereby taking Byju Ravindran out of the driver's chair. Now, that is something that Byju Ravindran has been contesting, is seeking relief from. He's sought on various occasions the apex court not obliging, and it is at this juncture that we find that 4 investors have again come on board, have filed intervention applications to intervene in this insolvency matter. The 4 investors are big ones. We're talking about General Atlantic, Peak 15, Sofina, as well as MIH EdTech. Importantly, these are the same investors who had moved the NCLT against the rights issue of Byju's, and at the time they had raised questions of mismanagement, of oppression, of financial irregularities and siphoning off of funds. We understand they're likely to raise these concerns once again before the apex court, even as Byju Ravindran is looking for a relief in the form of getting back into the driver's chair and discontinuing the insolvency proceedings. So all these questions will require answers. Byju Ravindran, of course, seeking early hearing in this case.
All right, Ashmit, appreciate you joining us. In more news for Telegram, this time it's coming in from India, just days after the company's CEO Pavel Durov was arrested by French authorities. Sources say Indian authorities are already investigating the company. It is alleged that the platform is used for illegal activities ranging from child pornography, fraud, extortion and gambling. Telegram, which has over 950 million active users, allows group chats with 2 lakh users, which is considered to be enabling the spread of misinformation. French President Emmanuel Macron has said that there was no political motive behind the arrest of Telegram's CEO. In a post on social media platform X, Macron said the arrest was a part of an ongoing judicial investigation. This is the first official confirmation of Durov's arrest, nearly 2 days since he was detained at an airport in Paris. Union Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari chairing a session at the automobile industry body Siam in Delhi today. In a statement on social media, Gadkari said several commercial and passenger vehicle makers agreed to offer discounts against scrapping of older vehicles with a valid certificate of deposit. The minister said this initiative will ensure cleaner, safer and efficient vehicles are on our roads. We will head into a break, but up next, Apple elevates Indian origin engineer Kevan Parekh as its next chief financial officer. That and more when we return. More headlines this evening. After spending more than 5 months in jail, the Supreme Court has granted bail to BRS leader Kavitha in the Delhi Excise Policy Case. The apex court observed that the investigation is complete and the likelihood of a trial in the near future is impossible. Protests against the RJ Kar rape and murder incident continue in Kolkata. A newly formed student outfit clashed with the police while they were leading a protest march to the West Bengal State Secretariat in Howrah, demanding Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee's resignation. The police, who had earlier declared the march illegal, used water cannons and tear gas to disperse the protesters. On to the latest in the Me Too storm. That's royal. The Malayalam film industry actor Mohanlal has resigned as the president of the Malayalam Movie Artists Association following series of sexual assault allegations against several film personalities. All members of the executive committee have also stepped down as per reports. A redacted version of the Justice Hema Committee report that was released last week detailed accounts of harassment and mistreatment of women professionals. Meanwhile, the Kerala police has registered a case of assault against movie director Ranjit after actor Sri Lekha Mitra filed a complaint with the Kochi police. Mitra alleged that Ranjit misbehaved with her during a meeting in the year 2009. iPhone maker Apple has elevated Indian origin engineer Kevan Parekh as its next chief financial officer. Parekh has been working at Apple for the last 11 years and is set to take over from January next year. Kanishka joins us now with more. Kanishka, another Indian origin leader in Silicon Valley. Tell us more about him.
Indian origin C-suite leaders at corner offices of global companies is not a rare sight anymore, whether it is Tesla, Google or Zoom. The latest entrant to the list is Kevan Parekh, who will take over as the Apple CFO from January 2025. What also stands out for him is that at a time when most companies look for someone who is upskilled or worked across different firms or has a fresh perspective, Apple has decided to pass on the reins to an insider. To promote someone from within or to hire someone new is a dilemma that big companies often face, and Apple has decided to go the conventional way. Parekh will succeed his boss Luca Maestri, who will remain at Apple but in a reduced capacity. Parekh joined Apple's finance and product marketing team over 11 years ago and is currently the Vice President of Financial Planning and Analysis. He has remained largely reclusive with no social media presence over the years, but at Apple, reports say that he's an instrumental executive who often reports directly to Tim Cook on important financial and sales matters. In fact, earlier this year, he assumed the responsibilities and office of Sauri Casey, the senior Apple finance executive who is now the CFO of Sanos Inc. Quite literally following the footsteps of his boss Maestri, who had been training him, Kevan also started his career at General Motors in 2004 and has held key positions at the company in US and Europe before he moved on to Thomson Reuters for a 4-year stint. Now, the leadership change at Apple comes at a time when its multiple product launches are due on September 9 this year. Experts say that the transition to the new CFO in January is planned and orderly and therefore is likely to be smooth. And that Maestri staying on with Apple is also very important as it removes the risk of financial questions later on. During Maestri's tenure, Apple more than doubled its revenue, with services revenue growing more than 5 times. As Parekh looks to fill his shoes, global analysts say that he will need to continue prudent capital management, but he may also have to explore complementary acquisitions, which requires a different skill set from the CFO.
All right, Kanishka, many thanks. And staying with Apple, it's partnered with Bharti Airtel to introduce exclusive OTT offers for its users. The tie-up will allow Airtel customers to access Apple TV and music content with premium plans. Airtel users will be able to enjoy these benefits from later this year. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. More news and updates will continue right here on CNBC TV18. Do stay tuned. We're back in a moment after this very short break.